Yo, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have Scott Dashy talking about his Nats run with set 10 Syn Shenron. What's up, Scott?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about what you've done in the game, how long you've been around, how long you've been playing for, that type of stuff?
Yeah, I've been playing since before day one, 2017. I was at the first ever event at Gen Con 2017, and I've played in many regionals, topped in many regionals. But to me, it's not really about topping with the best deck in the game. It's more of like how spicy can you be, how unique can you be, how ballsy can you be. So that's why I often like to run off meta decks, funny decks, and try to challenge myself by winning with these strange meta calls.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. How about Nats? How was your experience? Was there anything you'd improve about it? Thoughts on the current meta?
So I thought that, well, first of all, I think that the worst Nats experience was probably last year because the meta was horrid last year with
Yeah.
Red Sin and SS4. It was a horrible experience. Even though I was one win away from topping, it was just a bad experience. The meta was so bad. This year, the meta was it was bad still, but it was doable, and it was so that you could run like kind of like a fun deck and still top something like that. I ran Yellow Sin 2 years ago, the first LA Nats, and I didn't top because I was one win away. I remember to this day, it's amazing how people listening to this know what I'm talking about, even you, Nassif, where if you make a misplay at a high level tournament like Nats, you think about it to this day. Like I don't
Yeah,
forget about my
it sticks with
misplays.
you forever.
And I remember 2 years ago at Nats, I was playing Yellow Sin. I had the triple striker out. I swung, and for whatever reason, my opponent was playing Black Zeno Gogeta. Didn't have, or he had one energy open, and for whatever reason, I shotgun. Like I didn't pull the trigger and lay out all my combo pieces. I only combo to I think 50K. I could have gone to like 75, but I didn't because I was afraid he was going to use Black Mass Sand to take one life instead of the triple strike.
Yeah.
And then if I had done that, I would have won and I would have topped. But I didn't, and he out comboed it by like 5K, and then he killed me on the crackback turn. And I was like, oh my! And he told me he's like, I don't run that card. I don't Black Mass Sand. So that
Oh.
hurt. This year I had a good time. This year I thought ran pretty well. Huge shout out to the judge team and the announcing team, the commentating team, like just the best of the game were there. And it was a fun time. I thought it was run well. One Piece, not so much, but I
Yeah.
spent my time in the DBS area, and I thought for a game that is, it's I don't want to say it's dying. I don't think it's necessarily dying. I think it's going to have its own little. It's going to have its niche
I like to
in the. In,
say it's on its last legs. It's not done
it,
yet, but
yes,
it's
yes.
staggering.
I could see it. I could see it lasting with like a little bit more than the Vanguard, I guess syndrome, where it's like you have like 300 to 400 players at the biggest event of the year, and that's going to probably stay that way for a couple of years until eventually, who knows what happens. The game is still worth collecting and paying little money for. If you like find cheap singles, you buy it. But I for this like the problem is with me, I ran Yellow Sin this year because I had so much time away from the game. Like I didn't play the game as much. I was too busy with Lorcana and Fusion and Fusion World and One Piece that I didn't really test any of the new strategies. The new strategies are very convoluted, and you have to do a lot of reading and a lot of testing, a lot of practicing. And I was like, I'm gonna just run a deck that I'm comfortable with, and I recommend everyone do that. Like
Yep.
the tournaments that I've gone to in my life, I've been playing competitively card games for since 2000 or the year 2000.
Oh
So
wow.
every tournament that I've ever gone to where I run a meta deck, net deck instead of a deck that I'm comfortable with, I've usually done way worse. And it's also like you lose and you're like, crap, I wish I ran this deck instead. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna run Sin. It can still win. It's still pretty good. It has answers. And I ran the list I did because I wanted the control variant. Any of you who know Puna Lives is another really popular Yellow Sin player. His version is more of like an aggro type version. To me, I wanted to run a control late game version to pay 6 and just spam the board and win.
And I see we have your list here. You're not really running the 8 drop at all, or isn't it an 8 drop the one that like grabs the
Yes.
skills of one of the ones in the drop? So yeah,
Yep.
that's very interesting. Uh,
Yeah. I used to run that, but then over time, it was just like, why? It's not needed per se, because the pay when you use that effect, you warp cards out of your grave, so you don't have enough fuel for the paying 6 effect, which is extremely busted.
got you, got you. Okay, let's get into the list then. I'm sure people know what the leader does at this point, but if you want to just talk through it real quick.
Yeah, so the front side is just swing, look at the top 5, grab any colored dragon, and put it to your
Oh,
hand,
any color.
and that matters because you can run the red Syn dragons and you can also run the black ones. There's some good ones that you can fool around with. The best off color one is the black 4-drop Syn. Um, you awaken at 3 life, or if you have a 4 cost unison. And the backside is simply swing, draw a card, restand all your dragons, except for black. You restand all yellow dragons at the end of the turn, and you can. The most important thing is you can pay 6 and play 7 different dragons from your grave, and that's really why we're in the deck. That is an extremely busted effect, and hardly has any answers, and it won me
And
many
do they
games.
have to be 7 with different names?
7 different names,
Okay.
so which is fine. That's why you might notice I run a lot of like
Yeah,
one
there's
offs,
lots of
two
yeah.
offs. So
Okay. And as far as the awaken condition goes, did you find you were mostly awakening with your unison, or you were going down to 3 and awakening that way?
so almost every single game I awakened with unison, even if it wasn't on turn 4. I would hopefully draw into it somehow. Most often, I would draw into it by my opponent killing my 9-drop and me drawing 2, and then
Okay.
on uh, consecutive turns, I would drop the unison either on 4 energy or 5 energy. The ideal scenario is when I play this deck, I mulligan into my 1-drop, 1-star ball, or the unison. The unison is like the most important because the 1-star ball can at least be tutored with the leader effect, like hopefully tutored, like you can possibly get it. But the unison, if you can open a hand, every game that I've opened the 1 ball and the unison in my opening hand, I think I've never lost. It's like it's oppressively broken going first, getting the setup out with the 1 ball going to the 4-drop, going to the 9-drop, and then you play the Meki Kabor unison, which is in my opinion still busted, and you awaken on 4. It's just a really strong combo. That's another reason why I feel comfortable running the deck.
Got you, got you. And yeah, I can tell you as an aggro player, if I sit across from this deck, I hate everything. All right, so let's go into the deck. You were talking about the unison a little bit. You want to talk about that first?
So I had a lot of opponents that forgot the unison existed, had no idea what it did, or forgot what it did. It's still one of the best cards in the game, in my opinion. It hardly has any answers. Against green, obviously, I'm kind of afraid of green. And there's some secret rares that can clean it up. But in general, when that's dropped, it stalls the game out in my favor because my opponent does not want to attack into me because the unison can block whenever it loses a marker from damage. I can tap anything on their board, including their leader, energy, a battle card, ignores barrier. So it just does so much to stall the game to that 6 energy mark where I pay 6 and try to win the game. And if I can establish enough blockers with the unison out, no deck in the game can really compete. Even if they use a secret army to clean the board, it's still I can just come back next turn and pay 6 and bring the bodies back out, and it's just very very oppressive if it gets the right setup out.
Okay, and what does the -4 do again on the unison?
The -4 I did use I think one game. So the +1 locks an opponent's card for a turn, cannot restand, meaning a battle card rather.
Got you, got you.
And the -4 steals a card. It does not ignore barrier or indestructible, but it can steal a card without barrier, without indestructible, and bring it to my side of the field and restand it. And I think I used that once to win the game, but I didn't really have to. I rarely use the -4. I use the -4 if I have to, but the +1 is so busted with drawing cards and keeping something tapped that and plus it get your unison has so many markers that your opponent feels like they can't attack into it because it's like, what's the point? It
Yeah.
stalls the game out. If I block, I just minus a marker and lock them down, stall their turn. There's so much synergy with it, it's really really strong. And it definitely helps stall the game out. If
So
it's
yeah,
especially if it's turn four.
he's just coming down and controlling the game to the point where you're comfortable tapping that 6.
Yep.
Cool, cool. All right, let's get into the rest of the deck. I see you're running 11 extra cards.
Yeah, I was originally running 10, but then actually I was running 12, I think, but then I cut one for a Majin Vegeta promo,
Okay.
as you see there. The extra cards. So, in my opinion, Yellow has some extremely strong extra cards. You have to run Power of the Super Saiyan. That's a staple. The card should be banned, in my opinion, because the issue with it is that it's so universally strong. It's going to be in every single Yellow deck until the game dies because it's too good.
This card
So
at
it's like it's
4 in Mecha Frieza
yes,
reboot was
stupid, stupid,
absurd.
stupid. So they need to just ban the card because it's going to be in every single Yellow deck, and there's like really no point. And it just like it's a staple one of. Like you have to run in every Yellow deck, and it's a free draw or it's a negate. The blocker negates are still really strong. Time Magic was really good for me. It's really good against Cooler Secret Rare. It's really good against the Yellow Goku that restands to try to attack you from the U7 deck.
Yeah, the
It
6
has
drop.
Sparking. If I can't awaken with my Unison and I need to go to 3 life, I can Sparking negate with it. I can use blocker negates to get to that 3 life mark as well. The best extra card in the deck though is the Nimbus. The Flying Nimbus is a busted card. It's always been a busted card. I was playing when they came out originally. It changed the entire game. It's still broken because the meta now is all battle cards. It's pretty much battle card swarm. And if my opponent misplays and swings with their leader first, and I negate with Nimbus, it literally locks, like their turn is over because then I can just block with Mecha Kabora Unison or block with one of my Syn blockers, stall the game out. I don't care if my blocker dies because on my turn 6, I pay 6 and play them all again. So it's just like a really, really busted card. And Release from Evil is just spice. Release from Evil is there because once I have the Mecha Kabora Unison out, it's free. And I can, I've locked a lot of secret rares that way. My opponent would drop, like, let's say a secret rare and try to attack me with a triple strike or like Cell Max, swing with a quad strike. You use it to lock their Cell Max. The attack goes through, but now your quad strike is a single strike vanilla 40k, and that's pretty much it. And it does a lot. It's good against certain decks. It's just there for spice, and it's free if I have the Unison out. But
Yeah,
the
you're
best
actually
card,
running a Unison unlike a lot of yellow decks, so you do have
yeah.
that advantage of using it for free. So, an interesting thought I had is you are running a lot of blockers. Did you give any thought to Forbidden Power over Nimbus, considering you could probably block that attack that you use Forbidden Power on?
Yeah, I originally had Forbidden Power in my main board, like ×2. But then I
Okay.
decided, like, I'm gonna just keep it in the sideboard and side it in where needed, because not all decks swarm fast enough for me to worry. So I ran Nimbus instead. In my opinion, Nimbus, if you're running yellow, you have to run 4 Nimbus. That's my opinion, because the card is so busted, and it gets even better next set with Green Frieza when you're running green and yellow mix in there, and you can run. It's not leader locked. You can be a non-yellow leader and use it.
Yep.
So it's just very, very strong. You have to discard a yellow card, but okay, great. In this deck, it has synergy because you can pitch Syn in your grave that you then get back. But Forbidden Power is another choice if you want to run it. It's not bad by any means. I did run it at one point.
Okay, and you mentioned the Majin Vegeta TP. Did this come up very often, or was this just like Z energy or energy most of the time?
Yeah, I made a mistake mainboarding it. I sided it out almost every single game. There were other
Okay.
game like there were other things I wanted to put in instead. I should have just made Majin Vegeta and Oceanus, the black Oceanus, one of just to put it in
Okay.
there because
Yeah.
Oceanus can be tutored with the front side leader. I sided in Oceanus for Majin Vegeta in many games, and it did come up. Oceanus did. And Majin Vegeta was meant for like the Pan decks or the Rainbow Bardock decks to clear their board, and I never played a single one of those at Nationals, unfortunately. So
Yeah, I feel like going into Nats, we didn't really have enough time with this card, and it read really good on paper, but there's very few times when the utility actually comes up in games.
yep, yep.
All right, the 3 Krillins, the Gohan Piccolo, pretty standard. The 4 Ripostes. Let's talk about your Shadow Dragon lineup, or your I don't know if they're Shadow Dragons.
They are. They are.
Okay.
So the four, you have to run 4 of the 1-star ball. That's the whole engine. And then now with the with the consistency of how the deck goes, people used to run a lot of the Ice Shenron, the blue dragon, the 2-drop that you see I have one of.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are running 2 or 3. I felt like, I mean, you can get rid of Magic Vegeta and run 2 ice, or you need at least 1 ice, just in case you don't mulligan into your 1-star ball. Oftentimes, I would just hit my 1-star ball or hit an ice, and I just get it out. But you have to run 4 1-star ball, period. That's like the whole engine of the deck. The 1-star ball gets the 4-drop promo, which is extremely busted. That right there, yep. That card is just, that is the reason why this deck came back for me. Like, I had the
Yeah.
deck when it originally was made. When that promo came out, I was like, oh my god, that is extremely busted. How on turn 2 you can get, or turn 2 energy you can get that out, and then if you want to, you can evolve over it with the 9-drop, which is still an extremely busted card, which won me so many games. The 9-drop blanks everything, ignoring barrier, ignoring indestructible, ignoring deflect for a turn. If that's all it takes sometimes. And it also has blocker and revenge. And there were so many games where my opponent did not want to play their secret rare or did not want to play their big bomb because, or like U7 Goku can't play their 4-drop because for a turn it gets locked. You don't have an effect basically, and you don't want to tap because you don't want to get hit by revenge. So that whole lineup, the 4-4-4, you pretty much have to run for the 1-drop, 4-drop, and 9-drop. But like, in general, you usually run 4-4-4. The other stuff is just techie choices. Like, for example, I run one of the 4-drop blocker from set 10, which is on the right there. Yeah, that used to be like a 4-of, but since the promo came out, that 4-drop is cut down. A lot of people only run 2, maybe 1. It did come up a lot of times. There were a lot of times, like late game, if you play that and you can keep attacking and comboing it into your grave, you can infinitely pay 6 like every turn thereafter and keep playing it to lock your opponent's leader or battle card from attacking, basically, or doing
Gotcha.
certain
Yeah,
things
that
with it.
seems
It's
pretty
kind of
good.
crazy. A card that won me tons of games is the 3-drop Syn to the right. That, oh my god, that card won me so many games at locals and at nationals. You KO any rested card that you control, and then you can tap anything on your opponent's side. It does not ignore a barrier, but it doesn't matter. You tap one of their energy. So a lot of opponents will leave 1 or 2 energy up. You pay 6, play all your dragons, then you can destroy one of your own energy to tap one of theirs, and it's game over. They don't see it coming, and it's game. The MVP of the deck is cut between the 8-drop. So the 8-drop Triple Striker, Agent of Destruction. That card right there, yeah. That card won me so many games because it's really the only board control I have in the deck, like straight board control. I would play it only using the pay 6, but when it came out, I would KO their big threats, and it's a triple strike bomb. And on that same note, because of the unique rule of the leader effect, I ran 1 triple strike on the far left, as you see there. You had to run 1, screw it, have a different body. A card that won me a lot of games was the 4-drop Black Syn. The 4-drop Black Syn won me multiple games at nationals and even when I play locally because people underestimate the synergy between that and the Mecha Kabor Unison. You keep using the Spirit Boost effect every single turn, my turn and your opponent's turn,
Oh.
to mill your opponent out and restand the blocker. So I would block with the 4-drop, Spirit Boost, you mill a card, I restand my blocker, combo out so he survives. And then when you attack again, I block again. And if the blocker dies, next turn I pay 6, play it back out, and I keep using Spirit Boost effect. I milled out at least 2 opponents. I know C-Rod from Super Players, really good guy. I milled him out with it. And I milled out another opponent of mine round 3 with it, and I put pressure on. I was 1 card away from milling Frisco out, who made top 16 using that. And yeah, the Black Syn definitely extremely good. It has barrier, deflect, it's busted, double strike. The other choices that I had were the 3-drop Dragon, which is just there for utility to rest things and scare them. It has double strike. Yeah, the Oceanus yellow card is a barrier blocker, which can rest cards and get rid of small threats. So it's okay, and it can burst and tutor stuff. But another card that won me a lot of games was the Syn Shenron, the 4-drop
Yeah.
right there. That card won me so many games. My opponents forgot that card existed, forgot what it did. The most broken thing of all, I think, and I don't want to bring up, again, C-Rod is the man. Super players do a lot for this game, but I enjoyed my game with C-Rod, but he forgot it existed because he played his triple strike Vegito He's running set two Vegito, and
Okay.
he's went to the Z lead. He played the huge like 30 or 35K triple strike bombs. This one in particular did not have barrier, but it was like beefy and he could kill me. He swung with it, um, and I think I want to say I negated the attack or whatever. I was tapped out. I had nothing. And then he played his secret rare, which is the Vegito, the blue yellow one, the
Yeah,
top power up.
draw
Power up.
four, tap
I was
four.
I was all tapped out. He had a massive hand. Um, I wasn't going to be using the blocker negate, and he swung. He comboed to I think like 70 or 80K, and then I go Hayes pop the secret rare, and he goes what the hell, and I killed his secret rare, and that won me the game. He had no idea that existed. Like
Oh no.
and multiple opponents all day comboing with that. Like that card's amazing against Jiren. It's amazing against U7 Goku.
Yeah,
Um,
we have a lot
so
of
yeah,
like dual attack, triple attack, multiple attackers in the format,
big
and this
bodies.
this deals with
Yep.
them. Yeah. All right, I think that was everything. Are there any changes? Oh well, let's look at the Z deck and the side deck real quick. Any changes you'd make to the
The
main
Z deck.
deck before we do?
Um,
Besides the Majin, of course.
Majin Vegeta is not necessary. Other than that, I like the Dragon lineup that I'm using. I think I was hitting them consistently over the course of a game. You usually draw them or discard them. So no, I like my lineup, but it doesn't mean it's the best version of the deck. I like the setup of the deck that I have and the ratios that I have. So I would leave it as is, except for Majin Vegeta.
And you'd never had an issue getting to turn 6. No decks were able to aggro you down through your negate lineup and
There
through
was
the
only
defense you have.
there was only one opponent that I had uh, who killed me. He went first, and he went off early. I didn't see my Nimbuses, and I didn't see my Meki Kabor Unison on 4, and he killed me with a quad strike secret rare. And I didn't have my blockers out. Like I just wasn't drawing well that game. But in
Okay.
general, with Nimbus and the 9-drop, you can stall the game out 6, especially if you hit the Meki Kabor Unison.
That's crazy that something that powerful is that consistent. More players need to be on this.
As for the Z deck, the Z deck's pretty standard. The oolong doesn't need to be at 2. Like if you have extra space, like oolong can be at 1 for a kill card. A card that needs to be in the deck is the Z extra card, just because there's so many turns where you can play the Z extra card. It did help me. Like if you have nothing to do a turn, you can swing, combo a dragon, pay 1, get rid of the dragon, play the Z extra just to be safe, just to feel like you get a free 10K. Just why not?
Yeah.
Vegeta, the black 1-drop is always there just in case you're at 4 life and want to awaken.
Yeah.
Um, the 3-drop Goku is there. I was actually afraid of Janemba, so
Oh,
that
he's really
Goku
good. Yeah.
that Goku locks the leader Janemba from attacking, and also is pretty good if you're already winning the game and you need to stall. That Goku helps stall the game a lot. As barrier and deflect, it's really strong.
You also
And
have this 4-drop to lock their leader, right?
yes, yes,
So
yes.
Janemba could be kind of favorable for you.
Yes, and I am afraid of that deck. And of course, the Majin Vegeta or the SS3 Majin Vegeta, that card actually won me a game because I don't really have direct board control. And you can pay 3 and 2 Z energy and play that and pop something off their board. So that did help. And my Z leader, I don't really use. Like if I was desperate and had to double strike for game or clear an entire board by discarding 6 yellow, I can do that. But there were so many times where I was like, my hand is so broken late game because I have all these good extra cards that stall, and I have the unison established. I have my boards established. Like, why would I go to the Z lead? Like, it's not necessary. It's just like a win more card. So it's there though, just in case, but it's not needed. And the only change I would make is Oolong does not need to be at 2, but there's not really any other yellow Z battle cards or Z card. Like, there's not enough
Maybe another
fuel
Z
yet.
extra.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, or see what's coming out next set with Z Unisons. If they make a yellow 4-cost Z Unison, oh my god, this
Oh.
this deck is consistently awakening on turn 4 now. If they do that, so that's what I'm keeping an eye out for.
So I noticed this is the only anniversary box card you have in here. You're not playing either of the dragons that came in the anniversary box.
Yeah, I was really excited when they announced Yellow Sin support, but the cards are meant for the aggro version of the deck, or the
Got it.
aggro like fast like balls to the wall version, and I do not like that version because I think other decks rush and are more aggro than it. So I was like, Syn is very good at stalling. So I'm gonna keep it the stall version. You gotta have the Z leader in there. It's a one cost double strike if you need to go for game with the
Yeah.
go on Piccolo super combo. So yeah.
All right, and let's talk about the side deck. Obviously, it was tailored for the North American national meta. If people are watching this down the line, it's going to be different. But let's talk about the card choices and why they're there.
So I'll go in order. So Black Oceanus is a dragon. It's tutorable on the front side. If you look at the top five, you can grab any colored dragon. So there were times where I would grab that to stall the game. I know my opponent can have answers to it, but I'm okay in this deck. If I have a high enough life, if they counter my Oceanus, survive a turn, and combine it with like Nimbus to stall the game, I'm okay if I take a lot of damage, like if I'm down to like 3 or 2 life at the end of the game. If I pay 6 and I keep playing those big bodies, I can usually steal games. So anything that stalls the game is really good. Plus, in this the way the game is now, and it's going to continue this trend probably until the game dies, is that so many decks draw so many cards. So when I would play like the Oceanus against like the Gohanks deck, the red Gohanks deck,
Yeah.
they're drawing so many cards. They can't even afford to swing one time because they could easily die from milling even 4 cards early on because they draw so many cards. So I think every time I played Oceanus and Nationals, it did not get. I played it early. I didn't play it late game, so they can't really afford to counter early because then they lose their momentum, and it would just stall the game and win me the games. The Black Jiren was there for the 7 energy Goku deck or any type of deck that could possibly run Android 17 because they were out there. They were definitely out there. One of
Oh
my choices
yeah.
for Nationals was the 7 energy Goku deck. I have one myself, and I am afraid of Android 17, Super 17 because that is a or not Super 17, the Turning the Tide
Turning a tide.
17.
Yeah.
It is an extremely busted card. Probably should be banned, and I needed to respect it. So the Jiren is there. Kotsukai is there simply because of another deck that I'm terrified of. Cooler. Cooler Mill is a horrible, horrible matchup for Yellow Sin. So is Red Blue Launch, like that launch arrival deck. Um, I'm terrified of like Cooler to Mill. They're all 20k bodies usually, or Boo, Hercule. Like I'm afraid of those bodies coming out and milling me. So the turns, usually if I play against those mill decks, I literally do not play any battle cards except for maybe barrier. I played like the 1 drop that can't be affected by effects, or the 4 drop barrier guy, even though that can be affected by some of their guys. I won't play any other battle cards and stall the game until 6, and then pay 6, and then try to win, or wait till 7 energy, pay 6, and then use 1 energy for Kotsukai, and so therefore they can't really like drop like 5 coolers on me or whatever. They have to deplete their hand. So the Kotsukai is there for the cooler matchup. Forbidden Power, Nasif already knows. Like you got to run at least one because against the Pan matchups, against the Rainbow Bardock matchups, you already have Nimbus, but that's also a good card there to have. The cooler counter, self-explanatory. If I was playing against Janemba, that's really I didn't side in that cooler at all because it is kind of expensive in this meta. It wasn't really necessary. It was meant for like the Janemba matchup. I was afraid of Danuke running Janemba. Like I would lose to him, so I
Yeah.
need to side those in for that matchup. I thought more people were going to be on Janemba because going forward that's the trend. So but otherwise I don't need to side that in really against much. Mutaido is for the Gohan matchup or any matchup with like Victory Strike in the U7. You can pay 1, tap it down, or you know what I mean. You can stall the
Yeah.
game with it, lock down a guy. The 3 Gohan 1 drops are for hand control, which I did not play against any hand control. I'm terrified of hand control. One of Syn's worst matchups is hand control, so siding in 3 of those helps. It's better than Deborah because Deborah energy and the Gohan's on color. The Trunks actually helped me win a game against Evelyn Lodice. The Android 21 matchup is kind of scary, but if you drop that Trunks after siding it in, they can't really use the 8 drop to untap 5. They have to warp like 25 cards according to
Yeah.
the most recent ruling. So it did help. And again, the Chi Chi's there for the blue matchup. Like I gave so much respect to Janemba and Cooler and things like that because I'm afraid of those matchups. But in general, this deck and its main deck can handle most of the meta.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, that seems like the deck and the side deck. Are there any shout outs you'd like to make before we wrap things up?
I just want to shout out everyone. First of all, I want to shout out Nassif for having me here, and
Thank you.
everyone associated with this channel. I want to shout out anyone I saw at nationals. Just have a good. I had a good time. I probably had a good time. I mean, we have a good time regardless. Even if I didn't go to nationals, I would have had a good time because I like this community a lot. I like the community how it operates. I hope the future community is similar. I think it will be. It's always good going to these events. I like I say in every video that I do. Um, if you are listening to this video and do not go to big events, I highly recommend you do. You see people that you see on the forums and Facebook pages and stuff and Discords. You see them in person. You get to meet them. You get to see what's up. You get to play a couple games. It's always a good time. Always fun. Definitely worth going to. You can make. I know this is. I shouldn't be saying this, but you can make profit sometimes by getting all the prize cards and the freebies, and you get the stuff before the general public gets them. But the event was really run well. The judge and commentating staff was excellent. The content creators in this community are excellent, and I appreciate all that. And I just appreciate the community in general. And I hope that the Fusion World community is similar, and that we can continue this momentum in that game. Because I'm still gonna play this game, but I'm gonna also play Fusion World.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing this deck with us, and good luck in the future.
Yes, thank you.
All right, catch you later, YouTube.